I interviewed a professor, Ghilarducci, because she's the brain, so-called, behind this notion of taking 401k plans and other private plans that get tax benefits, and then in return paying out this annuity. Because there's $5 trillion or so in these private pension plans. And I do not believe these statists are going to let them just sit there. They want every damn one of them. And there was a hearing, you may not know this, a week ago, covered by Connie Hare at Human Events. The chairman of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, or HELP, is Tom Harkin, Democrat, Iowa. And he had these hand-picked witnesses advocating this infamous Guaranteed Retirement Account, or GRA, authored by this Professor Teresa Ghilarducci. And in a nutshell, Hare reminds us that under this system, the government would seize private 401k accounts, setting up an additional 5% mandatory payroll tax to dole out a fair pension to everyone using that confiscated money coupled with the mandated contributions. It'd be another Ponzi scheme. But more than that, it would be outright iron-fisted Marxism. And in written testimony submitted by Economic Policy Institute Vice President Ross Eisenbray, whose office is on the same third floor in the same building occupied by George Soros' funded Center for American Progress, by the way. This is last week. He said, quote, "We need a comprehensive solution that addresses interrelated problems. For example, a system that places most of the burden for retirement saving on individuals will always have to wrestle with the problem of pre-retirement loans and withdrawals. A system that relies on tax incentives to promote individual retirement savings will necessarily tend to favor high-income workers who can afford to save more and who benefit the most from these tax breaks." Now, your hard-earned money that you put aside responsibly, studiously, every paycheck, for a private pension, because you don't want to rely solely on Social Security, because you're following the tax laws in a prudent fashion and you're organizing your lives so you have something left over after you work, they want to take that money because you're rich. Oh, yes, you're rich. You've been accumulating way too much tax-free, tax deductions, and, oh, I know, you'll pay a tax when you start to take it, but that's just too long down the road. They need the money now. Conversely, he wrote, this leftist, a truly universal system would need to shield low-income workers from out-of-pocket costs or wage cuts. EPI has published and advocated what we feel would be an excellent national supplemental retirement plan, the Guaranteed Retirement Account, which was authored by Professor Teresa Ghilarducci, director of the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy Analysis at the New School for Social Research. This lady's report has been circulating for 3 years. She testified the first time 3 years ago in the House, I believe in front of Congressman George Miller's committee. Miller, who is one of the right-hand hacks to Nancy Pelosi. Here you have a guy testifying at the Economic Policy Institute, Vice President Ross Eisenbray, endorsing this, testifying to a Senate committee chaired by Tom Harkin, a leading left-wing Democrat. This thing's coming if these people get elected. So your pensions are not safe from them, and they're not safe from their policies. Nothing is safe anymore. Jobs, home ownership, the currency, your pension, your health. Yes, it's coming, ladies and gentlemen, the tyranny. This is what I keep talking about, the soft tyranny. Well, they lay the foundation with a soft tyranny, and then what follows a soft tyranny is ever-increasing coercion and repression, because we cannot have individuals out there thinking for themselves, acting for themselves. They have to be motivated to support left-wing policies, not to support themselves or their families. Now, some of you are saying, Mark, there's no way they're going to go after our pensions. You know, by now, you should be on to these people. By now, you should realize that they're capable of, and in fact will do, whatever they want to do. And now you should be aware that if they can tell you what kind of insurance to buy and that you must enter into a private contract with a private provider, and if that is upheld by the courts, which it damn well should not be, it's going to be very, very difficult to successfully sue them should they seize your private pension funds and then say, well, we're giving something in return, an annuity. If you keep it clear in your mind that this is all about redistributing wealth and crushing the individual's spirit, you'll understand everything they do. If you just remember those two things, redistributing wealth and crushing your spirit as an individual. Because if they're going to take your pension plan, well, then you're not going to work that way anymore, are you? If the government is in charge of your health care, well, then you're going to behave differently, aren't you? You're going to keep voting for people who are going to keep, they say, giving you more and more, even while they're playing a shell game. And then what happens? Well, they may succeed politically, at least theoretically, but reality kicks in. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot cheat the law of economics any more than you can cheat the law of physics. Economics is. It can be debated, but it is. Supply and demand. Now here we have an article in France. Protests, strikes against pension reform. What do they want to do? Increase the age on pensions from 60 to 62. They're shutting down the whole country. The unions, the protesters, college students. Strikes in France turned violent today as high school students joined unions in protesting against Sarkozy's unpopular pension reform plan. This is from Deutsche Welle. Youths threw petrol bombs at police outside a school in the Paris suburb, and police responded with tear gas. The students set fires on fire, smashed bus stops, and threw rocks. It reminds us of the good old days of the 60s and 70s, doesn't it? When the left-wing nut jobs were out there doing the same thing. Meanwhile, Tea Party activists, other conservatives, always on their best behavior, whether it's town hall meetings or large rallies, always behaving, always following the law. No Molotov cocktails and no confrontations with the cops. Do you realize? Put aside the left-wing media. Put aside the left-wing propaganda. Do you realize how remarkable the current American rebellion is? How peaceful and civil and law-abiding this rebellion is? This is, honest to God, it's the most peaceful, legitimate, civil uprising, not only in American history, in any history. Law-abiding citizens following the rules, going to the polls, I hope, in massive numbers, to throw out the fools who are destroying this country. What does the left do? They pick up matches and Coke bottles and put gasoline in them, and they run around like a bunch of nuts, burning American flags. You remember it. Those of you who are as old as I, you remember it. We quietly march. We speak. We hold placards. Yes. And yet, through all that, Mr. Producer, let's get that cut with that ABC gal, Christine Amanpour.